Shalom to Linda Pardes Friedburg, founder of SSY.
Shalom Yoni.
Your organization helps Jews coming from former Soviet Union. When did that connection begin for you?
My connection with the aliyah of Russian-speaking Jews began already when I was in high school, when I collected money for the Soviet Jewry movement in New Jersey. And afterwards, after I studied Russian and I became more active in the Soviet Jewry movement, I went to Russia to visit refuseniks in the 1980s. And then when I finally made aliyah, just before I made aliyah, I went to work with Russian-speaking transmigrants in Ladispoli, Italy, to help them either decide to make aliyah or learn a little bit about Israel and Judaism. I worked with children there. And then when I finally made aliyah, I began to work for about 7-8 years in the 1990s in the Russian department of the Jewish Joint Distribution Committee in Jerusalem. So there, my work became very, very intense. It was the times of the Jewish Renaissance in the former Soviet Union, a very incredibly exciting time in Jewish history. And I worked on educational projects. And through the next 20 years, I married my husband, who was also Russian-speaking. So I actually absorbed some of the aliyah. I was so invested in this whole incredible, miraculous part of history. About 20 years later, I started to work with young Russian-speaking Jews because I realized, this was in about 2010, I realized that if we don't invest in the cultural absorption and the social absorption, in addition to the professional absorption of Russian-speaking Jews in Israel, especially young people who came to Israel in their 20s and 30s on programs and then found themselves alone, we're going to lose a lot of incredibly special people who chose Israel initially, but didn't feel so much at home afterwards. So Shishi Shabbat Yisraeli, Israeli Weekend, that's the nonprofit that I founded in 2010, and we've been together now for 13 years. Over 14,000 participants.
Tell us please about the main challenges of olim nowadays.
Okay. I think the greatest challenge, firstly, well, let's speak about just young people who made aliyah over the past many, many years. Not just the recent aliyah. People who come on programs in their 20s and 30s are very excited about being in Israel for the first time, seeing Israel, touring Israel. They're part of a group. They finish their programs like Masa, which are for 9 months. They find themselves completely alone because their families are back in Russia, Ukraine, other countries, and they know just a few people here. So they suddenly feel very lost and very lonely, and they start thinking, maybe this is not my place. So that's the first thing that we wanted to do. We wanted to build warm community that will support them socially, and also help them grow, help them develop through our excursions and through our chagim together and through our lectures and our professional mentoring and all the things that we need to do. Specifically recently, we've had a massive wave of aliyah, which is a huge blessing. It's the silver lining of this horrible war going on in Ukraine. And because of the numbers, the sheer numbers, Israel is not equipped right now bureaucratically to change the status of all these new olim. So some of them wait 3 or 4 months to change their status and then become Israeli. And so we've been trying to help on the bureaucratic physical absorption front by helping with documents and helping take people to the different offices and open their register their children for school and get them for the first steps. And we also see a serious lack of ulpan teachers. They're waiting many, many months to start their ulpanim. So those are the general bureaucratic physical absorption issues that we're trying to address right now. But the biggest issue is the biggest challenge is to make them feel, to remember why they made aliyah. That the reason they came is because they belong to the Jewish people, because this is their country, and it's not just another country where they can take refuge. Most of the new olim, especially the young ones, chose Israel. They could have gone to Europe, they could have gone to America, even though it takes a little longer sometimes, but they chose Israel because they believed that this is where they belong. They felt a part of something bigger, at least when they were there. They were active. Some of them were active in their Jewish communities. Some of them felt a part of Hillel or the Jewish Agency, and they come here and they find a desert. We want to correct that feeling that there is a warm, vibrant Jewish community here where they can continue feeling proud to be Jewish.
And what would be your message to Israelis regarding this aliyah?
I think the most important thing for Israelis to understand is that these are very, very fine people who want to belong. It takes them a while maybe to learn Hebrew, but if you can be in touch with them, reach out to them, make them feel welcome, invite them to your seders, invite them for Shabbat. They're shy, they're not going to initiate these types of invitations, but every person who reaches out and makes another olim feel at home does a huge, huge service for all of us, for yourselves, for ourselves, and also for the whole Jewish people and for their successful aliyah. Because it's the warmth that makes them happy here and want to stay and contribute.
Linda Pardes Friedburg, founder of SSY, thank you very much.
Thank you, Yoni.